in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up the Respondus browser for a quiz that you have already made in Canvas. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you have already made the quiz. If not, you can go see some of the other tutorials on how to do that. So it's actually quite simple. You'll come down to Respondus Lockdown Browser and click on it. Now that should be active in everybody's Canvas. However, if it isn't, you'll come to Settings, and what you would find is that your Respondus Lockdown Browser is down here. And that means that it's hidden from students. So if that happens somehow, you would just drag it back up into here. But it really should be there for everybody. And then you need to make sure and come down and save, otherwise it won't work. All right. And then we're back to where you should be when you log in. So you've come in, you've made your quizzes using the quiz tool. You have your quizzes set up and ready to go. And now you want to set up the Respondus Lockdown Browser. You click into here. There's a ton of good video tutorials that are honestly probably quite a bit better than this. So you should probably go through and watch those if you need help. There's some little getting started tools. There are some resources. But if you're watching this, you can also just close it. Now you'll see all of your quizzes. You can see I already have some that are set up and required. If you see this, that means they're already required. We're going to go ahead and set it up for one of the other ones. Let's say we want to do this for conjugate acids and base. We see here that it's not required, and we want it to be required. So we can click on this little arrow and go to Settings. And this will pull down a drop-down menu. Right now it's set to Don't Require Lockdown Browser. We're practicing turning it on, so I'm going to turn it to Require Respondus Lockdown Browser. Now, all that does is lock the browser itself down, so they won't be able to go visit other websites. It doesn't record them. It doesn't show you whether they're basically on their phone, whether they have their notes in front of them. All it means is that on the computer that they are taking the quiz on, they cannot go to anything else. It also doesn't mean that they can't have a second computer there. So this is pretty limited. Most likely you want to also record their webcam so that you can go back and look at the recording if you think that there might be something going on, or maybe you're going to have your proctors all go through and look at all of the recordings, however you want to go about doing that. Down here you'll see Monitor Webcam Settings, and you can say Require. This just tells you what it is. It tells you that it flags suspicious behavior, so we'll continue the lockdown browser monitor. Now we have a bunch of settings. You can set a password. I'm not entirely sure why you would want to do that in this particular case, since we don't have a person proctoring it. This would be something as if you wanted to send out a password right at that second, as opposed to just setting the availability window to a certain time. I'm not entirely sure why you would want to use that. I do not. Under Advanced Settings, we have a bunch of options. So lock students into the browser until the exam is completed. That's generally something I select so that they can't go in and out of it. Allow the students to take the exam with an iPad. I usually select that. I don't necessarily see why I wouldn't want them to be able to do it with an iPad. A case where you might not want to is if you are using some other program that makes the iPad less useful or might crash and you want to just basically not allow them to use it. I always let them. Allow access to specific external domains. So this would be if you want to allow them to look at one website in particular. Maybe your course website has a note feature on it you want them to be able to go to. Something along those lines. Then you can go ahead and select this in, and it will allow them to open another tab with that. Enable calculator on the toolbar. I always enable this in case for some reason a student forgets their calculator, and then I warn them not to use it because it is terrible. Enable printing from the toolbar. I don't use that. I don't want them to be able to print our exams. And then for the monitor webcam settings, we have it set to require, so it will record them. You basically have to do the webcam check. That's not optional. I then go ahead and leave all of these selected because I want to give them the information that they need, and I want to make sure that I see who they are, their ID, and that they have to show the room that they're in order to kind of make sure nobody else is there. This only works so well because, of course, if somebody's walking in a circle as they show the monitor around the circle, you wouldn't be able to see them, but it gives you some idea of what's going on. Now, the spatial detection options kind of depends. So in our case, we ended up deciding we need to turn it off for the common final. The first time we ran it, we left it on, and we got a lot of complaints because we have scrap paper and math problems, and so the students are looking down to try to do their work on their scratch work, and it's warning them and turning black that it can't see their face. So this would be a good idea if you're doing something like a multiple choice exam without any work, where the students really don't have any reason why they should be staring off screen. But if there's a legitimate reason they are staring off screen, then you need to kind of undo this. Advanced settings. So 2 settings down here. Allow an application to use the microphone during this exam. This would be something if you needed them to record an answer, if you were in some sort of foreign language class perhaps, or something where you wanted them to actually talk at the screen, you would need to allow that to work. And then if you have some proctors that want to look at their mobile devices, you can do that. It kind of depends on how you're going to view the videos. And then if you want to practice being a student, you can put in a name and you can be a demo student. And then you would just save and close. And you'd come up here. And now you'll see the name has changed too. So now it says that it requires the Respondus Lockdown Browser and Webcam, so that your students will know that it requires that. Now a couple of things. I would highly suggest having one testing quiz up. So this right here is just a testing your equipment quiz. There's not actually any questions at all in it. All it does is it gives them a chance to practice using this and practice looking at what their exam is going to look at. I'm going to show you that quiz in a minute. And that quiz is actually available in the folder. You can just download it as a QTI file and upload it. So they can come in and do this anytime they want. And we also are using this as an excuse to come in and show them what they're going to get on their exam. So I embed the questions or the equation sheet for them. And then just a little funny meme for them. You could also put in some questions if you wanted them to see what the questions would look like. And that's pretty much all there is. For those of you who are copying courses over, there's another important thing to notice. So I'm going to practice this using the test quiz that we have. So I'm going to download the test quiz file. I'm going to come into my course. I'm going to import my test quiz. So we'll come into here. We'll go to QTI file. We'll choose my file. Got my test quiz. I'll import. It's queued, so it's going to take a minute. We'll pause and come back when it's ready. All right, now that it's imported, we can go ahead and show you what I'm worried about. So if you go into quizzes and we scroll down, I imported a second testing your equipment quiz. And you can see here, it looks like it's all set up to use the Respondus Lockdown. It says requires Respondus Lockdown in browser and webcam. Everything is all set. Here's the thing, it lies. When you import a quiz, it looks like it's ready to go, but it isn't. You have to first come up, click on the Respondus Lockdown browser in the menu. Continue to the Lockdown browser. And then once you're in here, then you're good to go. A lot of times it will pop up and tell you, you have entered the Lockdown browser. It is now set up and ready to go, or something along those lines. This time it didn't. Must be I changed my settings to stop telling me that. But you'll get a pop-up window that will tell you that everything is good to go. So once again, to summarize what we just did, we imported a quiz. The quiz looked like it was ready to go, but it was not. And so we had to click on the Respondus Lockdown browser. We had to come into the Respondus Lockdown browser. And then once we're into this and we see that this is required, you don't even have to change the settings. The settings will import. You just have to go through the motions of clicking through to here.